Hello future, and welcome back to the Some Minecraft Let's Play. Today we're picking up where we left off in 1.8. I'm your host, KC Fly. Let's play some Minecraft.
So I bring up Phase Zero because Marvel is another area that I am wildly fascinated in. Shared with you in the last episode some of my thoughts and takes on Doctor Who. Doctor Who is now on Disney Plus. Marvel is also on Disney Plus, and I am a huge Marvel fan. Well, I mean, I say huge, but I mean, I'm sure comparatively it's no question compared to some people, but for me, I consider myself a huge Marvel fan. I think that's really all that matters, is your own self-identification. Okay, I know we're heading downwards in this direction, just trying to see if I can spot another cave for us. Not really. So I bring up Phase Zero because I have just a little bit of a problem. It's not a big problem. It's definitely not enough to make me stop watching the show. Although I have gotten there to that point before. Sometimes, you know, sometimes their own personal. I mean, okay, so for what the show is exactly what it needs to be. I'm not knocking that by any stretch of the imagination. It appeals to a certain audience to talk a specific way about certain things with a certain perspective. And they don't really take all too kindly to people who disagree with them. But like that's most of the world, I think. Not people who disagree with them. I mean, most of the world doesn't take all too kindly to people who disagree with them. But like, okay, in a nutshell. In today's episode, they were talking about. I don't want that in my inventory. Wow, chicken be laying eggs. I don't really need that either, because I can grow those myself anywhere. What I need are these. Okay, we'll get back to Phase Zero in a second. I'm sorry I keep splitting that up, but the game takes a little bit of priority. I am drastically looking forward to all of the new colors and all of the new dyes and everything. And these rose bushes. So the cool thing about these two tall flowers, right? Unlike the one tall flowers will give you one dye if you throw them in a crafting grid, right? Like that. Whereas the two tall flowers will give you two dyes. So that's worth considering. Don't need that. I think there's not very many two tall flowers, but I am very excited about all the new colors. For us here in 1.8, you guys are in the future. You know all this already. But for us in 1.8, is that a dark oak forest? It is. It is. That's exciting. We'll collect that in a second. The flowers will be really useful for bees later on, which we know are coming. But also, more importantly than that, they're just really great, like, decorative tools, right? I think they don't get a lot of press, really, but like they were huge. And for us here in 1.8, a bunch of new flowers and everything, that was just last update, you know? Like that was just the last update. No way of telling where the sun is at. Ooh, zombie, I see you. Okay, the roofed forest provides us a little bit of cover from the rain. Here's the thing though, I really want not so much this wood right now. Our inventory is kind of packed. Get rid of that. We don't need those. Keeping those. We don't have a bow, we'll get rid of that. Don't really need the flint either. We could toss the birch leaves. We can always get more birch leaves. We do have shears. Okay, so we've got some space. So the problem I have with Phase Zero at the moment, all of our politics don't 100% align. I have a feeling that I agree a lot more with them at the heart of things. So here's what I'm thinking. Who knows? I seriously doubt anybody from Phase Zero is ever going to watch this video or listen to me talk, but in the event that it ever comes up, I think this situation is kind of complex. I didn't... Okay, I should say I didn't hate She-Hulk. I didn't hate She-Hulk at all. And that's what they were talking about. That was one of the first pieces of news that opened up their episode. It was pretty much the title of their podcast episode. And boy, I do not envy our four hosts of Phase Zero. And proper credit where credit is due. I do want to let you guys know. So Phase Zero is hosted primarily by four people. Right? You have Brandon Davis. He's the kind of father of the show, if you will. I mean, he's the one that sort of assembled the team. And then you have Jenna Anderson, you have Aaron Perrine, and you have Jamie Drack. Those are the four hosts that a Google search brought them up in that order. I am a wholly different person than all of these people. If you listen to the podcast, and I highly encourage that you do, they have wild takes. Each one of them has wild takes on things, and I absolutely love it. But today, they were talking about She-Hulk. And I didn't hate She-Hulk, but I didn't love She-Hulk either. I've got to get saplings. She-Hulk made some creative decisions whole cloth, unapologetically. And I enjoy the show a lot more than a lot of people that I know. We'll just start off there. But I like, it's just enjoyment. Like, I am never really in the mood to watch it. I don't have this, like, deep MCU, I've got to see it because dots will connect. I just don't think it's all that great. And here's where the rubber meets the road on that one, is that whenever the Phase Zero podcast brings up quote unquote haters of the show, right? Which I'm sure they don't mean anybody who didn't like it. I don't think that's their qualifications for haters. I have a feeling that they have a more nuanced people group that they're speaking to. But this is just how it comes across. When they talk about haters of the show, they seem to it just feels like they're talking about anybody who didn't love the show. And the reason why that's problematic is because they tend to lump that subsection of people in together as like a crowd of misogynists. Which is not really... I just don't really think that that's fair. It makes me feel gross constantly. It really puts a bad taste in my mouth for the show. I kind of don't want to watch it or listen to it. I'm really tempted to like hit the pause button and go listen to something else when they start talking about it because I didn't love the show. And I'm not saying that is what they're saying. I'm not saying that they are calling me a misogynist. But that's what it feels like, you know? And it's really weird feeling like you have anything in common with misogynists. Like, that's not really a comparison that I like to invite into my brain space, you know? And it always makes me like argumentative. Like I'm being real tactful here because I respect these four hosts tremendously. I respect the hell out of them. But it just feels crappy when it feels like they're making me out to be something I'm not. So, let's just get down to it. If you saw She-Hulk, then you know that the main villain of the show was kind of I don't know if it's meta. I don't know if the show is just trying to be meta. And I really don't know how much this was discussed in the public discussion realm beforehand as to whether or not the show was, hated. Like, when they announced that they were doing She-Hulk, was there just a bunch of people at the time that came out and were like, were there just a bunch of people at the time who came out and were like, Marvel's turning towards crappy feminist comic book characters? Is that what incited that to be the main plot line? Because apart from that, there being a reason for that, and then the writers being like, hey, She-Hulk breaks the fourth wall, let's run with this. Real quick, I'm gonna mark our coordinates here. And then we're gonna run back. We're gonna try to unload some of this stuff back at our base. And I'll just talk while we're making that run. It just felt to me like... I keep saying that. I keep starting the sentence over the exact same way. I don't think I'm a misogynist. I don't think that I dislike She-Hulk because it has a female lead. I disagree with that premise entirely. And my support for that, like my evidence for why I'm not a misogynist, is because some of my favorite characters in the MCU are women. I'm a huge fan of the Scarlet Witch. And it just kind of occurred to me back there that two of the women I adore acting in the MCU are both the Scarlet something. I don't think Scarlet has anything to do with it. Look at that. We're gonna explore that on our way back. Should be easy to find, but we didn't see it the first time. I love the Scarlet Witch. Her character arc. Here's what I think. I think that the Scarlet Witch is a female protagonist done right. And I think that She-Hulk is kind of a female protagonist done poorly. Which sucks, because I love the character of She-Hulk. I am nowhere near as versed in the comic book background as Jenna Anderson is. So I'm not even going to try to play that game at all. But I do really like what I've seen of the character She-Hulk. I don't think I need to drop off both of these here. I don't think I need to drop off either one of them here. I'll just throw everything in here. No, everything downstairs. We have this for this reason. There we go. We're on the road again. I also thought that Layla in Moon Knight, granted, I'm very partial to Moon Knight. I loved Moon Knight a lot. I thought Moon Knight was borderline a masterpiece. The Scarlet Scarab, when she became a superhero, and you had that line, when she rescued the Egyptian girl from the I think it was a bus that had been pushed over on its side and was like sliding towards her or something like this, and Layla just flew in and rescued. Oh no, I needed to leave the lava. Okay, we'll leave it up here. We'll throw it. Actually, no. We'll just do this. There we go. Anyways, and you had that line from the woman that she saved. Are you... I think she asked, are you an Egyptian superhero? And Layla responded with, I am, and then just took off back into the fight. Like, yeah, and it was a girl talking to her. Like, you could see everything that meant to that girl. Like, both, just that whole, it gave me chills. Like, it was so powerful, it was so moving, but it was also humble. And take, for example, Captain America as like a male superhero. Part of what makes him work, and I feel like this might be true for pretty much all male characters, really. Part of what makes their stories successful is that they undergo hardships, right? But they do so, and they have to humble themselves. Is a part of it, right? It's like, I like Captain America because he's humble all the time. Like he does what he has to do. He stands up to bullies because he has to, not because he's arrogant. Tony Stark starts off arrogant, and his whole journey as an arrogant character is a journey of humility, to working well with others, to seeing value in the team, to like wow, this is a really small ravine. Maybe this is just 1.8. But like that sort of humility is essential to making a character like that work. And I feel like what you had with She-Hulk was a complete lack of humility. Not really any humanizing moments. And while I loved the break, why did I grab those? I don't want those. While I loved the breaking the fourth wall of it all, okay, it just wasn't really. There was no humility to it, you know? There was no... So it's hard for me to appreciate that character because she didn't really grow. Characters that don't grow don't tend to mean very much to me. I need them to grow, and I need to feel like I grew on this journey with them, that their story as a case study reminds me of the values of life. Like, and that really should be the heart and soul of every story. Every moment of character growth really needs to be something that the audience can learn from, you know? She-Hulk was fun. I definitely thought it was fun, but it didn't mean anything to me. I had a blast that they reference her breaking the third wall. Her breaking the third wall before Deadpool, and Echo going MATV, and like before Deadpool becomes like the big deal. Like I love that. And I think that Ryan Reynolds is like, I think he's not arrogant or shallow or insecure enough for that to bother him, and that's really cool. Although his character is very insecure. Like that's a big part of what makes Deadpool. The Black Widow, right? Her movie had its moments, but I love her as a character. Her story throughout the entire MCU has been meaningful to me, and I'm really upset that she got gypped kind of as often as she did. Like, justice for Black Widow, because she's a fantastic character. But yeah, I think that this whole, are you a feminist or are you a misogynist? Like, those are the only two options. I feel like that's a mentality that just comes up in conversation, and I truly believe that our hosts of Phase Zero pumpkins. I truly believe that they don't mean anything by it. I have a feeling that they're not talking to people like me. I have a feeling that they're talking to people, I'm sure, because listen, they get comments. They have comment sections. And I am just absolutely certain that their comment section, as big as they are, as big as they've become as a podcast, just has some really like I would probably be shocked at how belligerent some of the comments they get must be, right? And if I had to guess, I'm guessing that when they talk about this, they're responding to those comments because, you know, they're human too. They read the comments because they care what people think. We all tend to care more about what people think than we would ever let people in on. I don't know that I'm gonna find any caves out there, man. So like, I'm sure they're reading the comments, and it probably, here we go. Here's something. Maybe, yeah. My head tells me that that's who they're responding to, you know? That they're not responding to the people like me who have very real criticisms, and it has nothing to do with the sex of the actor in front of it. I couldn't care less. Well, actually, I care more, probably. I probably care more about She-Hulk because it has a female, I mean, because the character is female, has a female lead character. And I want it to be a success because of that. So I hold it to a higher standard. But it's absolutely not a me being a misogynist and hating women and blah blah blah. But that's what it feels like. Because that's the only conversation being had about it. And that bums me out, you know? It bums me out that I get compared to, that I have to like mentally fact check what they're saying and like remind myself that this is not me. That I have to deal with, you know, their takes. Which I'm sure if I could sit down and have a face-to-face conversation with them, I'm sure that it's like that it wouldn't result in that. but I've also had, you know, unfortunately, arguments with people online who are from the more, you know, liberal side of the aisle, who, like, that's just the card that they play all the time. You know, and it's a really cheap card when you think about it. Any categorization of people that's designed to dismiss any intellectual argument that they might present simply because of who they are, that's kind of... I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
Man, this cave just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Hello?
Yeah, I think we're just gonna block this off.
I know just what to do with you.
Man, if creepers did explode when they came into contact with lava or fire, that would do a lot of damage.
I mean, okay, so I realize that I do love their podcast. I think they've done an excellent job with it. I think that they're all incredibly hardworking people. I'm not a very charged individual. Like, I'm way more calm than quick to speak, for example. So I think we need an iron pickaxe. That's what I think. My advice still stands, even if you're, more like me and likely to wrestle with offense and to literally have to do mental gymnastics to remind yourself that you're not the target there, because you've had a few negative interactions with people on YouTube comment sections or something. I still really, really encourage listening to that podcast. Just because on top of their news coverage, which is like, they're fantastic at covering stuff that's going on in the world and keeping up to date and dropping, emergency episodes and hardworking. I mean, they release multiple times a week. Like, credit where credit is due. Like, these guys are no joke. But that's kind of where I'm at after today's episode. Is like we came out of She-Hulk, right? And I know people who loved it and I know people who hated it. And I wasn't really either of those. I do think that it's bland in some areas. But that just means that it was made for people different than me, What I do say, borderline, almost every time I talk about it, and what I said immediately upon seeing it is, I can't wait to have Tatiana Maslany in something else. Even a season 2 of her own show, even her own movie. Like, I can't wait to see her appear somewhere else, written with different writers, directed by a different director. Like, because I think that there's a ton of potential for this character to be done well and to be done right. And I just don't think that this show was it. I just don't. This show was a comedy, right? I don't know. I could talk more about it later. I feel like I've already talked about it a lot. All right, guys, we're going to call this episode there. This ravine is quite big, and it's probably going to take the whole next episode to navigate it completely. Like I said, I have a feeling that this adventure is going to span multiple episodes, so I hope you're ready for that. Seeing caving strategies and stuff like that. But that'll be all for this episode. Thank you for joining me. I hope you had fun. I hope you go check out Phase Zero. Those are an amazing bunch of podcasters, amazing people, human people, but amazing people. And thank you for joining me. See you guys in the future.